Hello everybody, my name is Nicholas Amston and welcome to Fat Kid Football Network. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit new. I'm going to be talking about predictions for this year's NFL quarterbacks that were taken in the 2019 draft. We're going to go just through the first 5 that were taken, and obviously this is just opinion because we haven't actually seen these guys play in the NFL, but eventually we will. And when we do in the preseason, I'd like to talk about these prospects more. The 5 quarterbacks we're going to be talking about today are Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and Will Grier. If you'd like to go to a certain quarterback, I'll put timestamps in the comments or the description below, just to hear me talk about your quarterback that your team drafted. To start things off today, we're going to start things off with the quarterback that started off the draft. Kyler Murray was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler was raised in Allen, Texas, and went to the Oklahoma University. Originally, Kyler went to Texas A&M before he transferred to Oklahoma, similar to Baker Mayfield, the quarterback who was also drafted from Oklahoma last year, first overall by the Cleveland Browns. And in this fact, Kyler did make history in a couple of ways. Something that I thought was really interesting is that he was the first Asian American to be drafted first overall. And honestly, from my memory, from how long I've been watching football, I can't think of many Asian Americans who have been drafted. So I think that's a really amazing thing for Kyler and, his culture and everything. Kyler made history also by being a Heisman winning first overall draft pick, just like Baker. And I believe that's the first time that 2 quarterbacks in a row from the same school have been drafted first overall and won Heismans consecutively. And let's talk about Kyler's Heisman winning year and to go over some of the stats. He went 260 for 377 passing attempts, which is 69%. Nice, Kyler. I like that. He threw 42 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. He had a QBR of 99.2. And for rushing, he rushed 140 times for 1,001 yards and 12 touchdowns. So Kyler overall had 54 touchdowns in his whole 2018 campaign, which I think is incredibly impressive. And then just to go over some, honestly, this is probably a concern. Kyler's measurements, how big he is. He's 5'10", which is short for a quarterback, and we can be honest with that. 5'10", 195 pounds, and he turned 21 this year before the draft. With heights being a concern, and we'll probably get into that in a second here, I just want to go over some pros of Kyler Murray. And I think that Kyler is literally the epitome of an explosion on the football field. When you see Kyler play, I think that that's just a football player you watch and you get excited. You get hyped up because you're like, oh my God, he did that. He's doing that. And it's just so impressive. The way that Kyler reads defenses is great for the air raid offenses, which he's going to be playing with Cliff Kingsbury. And someone that goes more in depth with that was a guy that posts on Reddit a lot. I'll leave a link in the description for him below because I think that he goes more in depth with this kind of thing. And I'm just kind of going, just simple stuff, just base level stuff right now because I'm going to be talking about a lot of quarterbacks in this video. And then we'll talk about some Kyler is his rushing. Kyler is the fastest quarterback in this draft, and I bet if he would, I bet he's faster than most of the running backs that came out of this draft, in which I'll be talking about running backs next video for these predictions. But I think Kyler overall, and Steve Keim said this, that he is a firework, and I could not agree more. And then we get into some cons of Kyler Murray, and obviously the biggest concern is height. And you hear that all the time, his height and his his longevity, I guess. Can he take big hits and get back up from big hits? Because there was a video that went kind of viral before the draft that Cardinals fans were kind of passing around of Quentin Williams hitting him, and he just gets knocked out against Alabama. And I would like to say in that Alabama game, just as a quick detour here, that was probably Oklahoma's worst game with Kyler under quarterback. But Kyler still mustered something in that game, and he still looked impressive against one of the best teams in college football. And I think that's great. And then we'll just get through it. His 5-year prediction for me, I think Kyler's gonna be, and maybe I'm a little biased because obviously I'm a Cardinals fan, but I think Kyler is gonna surprise a lot of people. I wasn't too happy about the Kyler Murray pick when I first learned about it, and I don't think a lot of people were. But I think that's something that Cardinals fans need to realize, is that Kyler is going to evolve this offense with Cliff, and I think they're a perfect match. I think Josh would have done great in the air raid. I think Josh Rosen is a great quarterback that had just a bad year, and I think he's going to do great in Miami, and hopefully they don't screw him over by taking Tua in the 2020. But I think that he did great, and I think he will do great, and best wishes to Josh. But I think Kyler Murray is going to lead us to some great years. And I think 5 years from now, he'll still be the Cardinals starter, and we might see another huge contract for a quarterback. And that's just my opinion. I think Kyler, this year, I think Kyler can beat the rookie passing record. I don't know about rushing, but I think this year he'll beat the passing record for rookie yards. Maybe even passing touchdowns, total touchdowns. Just because of how much the air raid can produce for him. So that was Kyler Murray, and we're going to move on to the second quarterback taken of this draft, which was honestly a little bit of disappointment for me because I'm a big Dwayne Haskins fan, and I think the Giants would have done really well with him. I think that would be the perfect place for him to gone. But they took Daniel Jones. And when I first heard about this pick, I think I had that immediate reaction that everyone did, and they were like, "What the hell? What? Are you kidding me?" Daniel Jones wasn't projected on some people's first round lists. Some people even had him going the second and third. And I think he's a very Eli Manning-like quarterback, and maybe that's why they took him. I just don't think he was even maybe the fourth best quarterback. I mean, honestly, I think Drew Lock and Dwayne Haskins seem like better prospects. But I will say this about Daniel Jones. I think he's the most pro-ready. I think that's fair to say, is that he's the most pro-ready. I think that he's going to go out there and do some good things for the Giants. So let's just get into his stats for 2018. And this kind of matches with what I'm kind of saying here. He went 237 for 392 passing attempts, which left him for 60% on the field for 2,674 yards. He had 22 touchdowns, 9 picks, and had a QBR of 131.7. And then he actually can run the ball a little bit, surprisingly. He's not... Honestly, I don't think that's going to be something that's like a staple. Maybe kind of like Andrew Luck, and where he runs when he kind of needs to. Aaron Rodgers type deal with running, at least. He ran 104. Well, he didn't run 104 times. Obviously, sacks and everything could be added into that. For 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then some measurements of Daniel Jones. He's 6'5", 220 pounds, and 21 years old. He's a very vanilla quarterback, in my opinion. He kind of honestly reminds me of Blake Bortles, and Giants fans might not want to hear that, but he really does remind me of Blake Bortles, and I think he's going to have, we'll get into that in a second, but he reminds me of Blake Bortles a lot. But mentally, I think that he has a quarterback IQ of a very good quarterback. I think the throws he makes are smart, and sometimes you'll see him make a perfect throw in the short to mid range, and he knows how to get it to wide receivers, and I think that's something honestly impressive about Daniel Jones. It is kind of like, again, like Eli Manning and stuff, but he has a really good quarterback IQ, and I think that comes with his training that he did with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning's coach that trained them both before. And because those are obviously two of the smartest quarterbacks in the game, and I think that it comes from that. But I will say that he has very unimpressive arm strength. And he can't really sling it, and that's kind of what the NFL is turning towards. And it's kind of weird to see with this new wave of stuff coming in, and with them not having a wide receiver anymore other than Sterling Shepard, they would get such a safe quarterback. I think that you'd want to be more aggressive. And the prediction I have for Daniel Jones, I think that he's going to be a reliable backup for his career. I don't think he's going to ever really be any more than that. I see him probably starting a year or two, just like Blake Bortles, and kind of just becoming a backup after that, after his rookie contract. Maybe they'll get a fifth-year option, but I don't see Daniel Jones being the next best thing, like I do Kyler Murray or Dwayne Haskins or Drew Lock. I really think this was a misstep by the Giants. But hey, I hope he proves me wrong, because he seems like a nice guy. I don't wish him any wrong. Maybe he'll prove us all wrong. Maybe this was the smartest pick in the draft and we just don't know it yet. But in my honest opinion, this was a weak move by the Giants. And then we go over to the person that was picked 16th overall by the Washington Redskins, Dwayne Haskins, out of Ohio State University. His hometown is Highland Park, New Jersey. Dwayne Haskins is one of my favorite quarterbacks, and I made a video about him that I can link somewhere around here, or maybe in the description below, that I went kind of more in depth with him. But we'll just go in kind of his stats. 533 attempts, 373 completions for a 70% completion rating, better than Kyler's. 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, again, better than Kyler Murray's. 4,831 yards passing. And then he is obviously a rushing quarterback. Stephen A. Smith said it himself. This is the fastest quarterback in the draft, and he has speed. No, Dwayne Haskins is not a rushing quarterback, but he did run for 108 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously not impressive. not that interesting or impressive. Stephen A. Smith said that he was a mobile quarterback because he's an idiot. But I think that he actually has a little bit of mobility, but more pocket mobility. He's 6'3", 221 pounds, and he's 21 years old. And a pro of Dwayne is I think that he can make basically any throw you need him to make. I think he has a great long, mid, short range. Everything. He can make any throw, slot, go, slant, dig, anything. I think that he's able to make those throws, and he's very good at working his progressions. And again, I went more in depth with this in another video, and maybe that's why I'm kind of going through Dwayne pretty quickly. But I think that he's an impressive quarterback. He was honestly my favorite quarterback in the draft. But kind of Dwayne, and this is why I think he would have been even better on the Giants, because I think the Redskins are going to rush him into it, kind of as the Cardinals did to Josh Rosen. I think the Giants are, none of the Giants, I think the Redskins are going to rush him into starting, but he has lazy footwork. His footwork is bad, just straight up bad sometimes in the pocket, and that does make him miss some of those throws that I know he can make. And he's inexperienced. And he's going to probably sit behind Case Keenum, but who knows how long that's going to be for. I had to see him starting sometime this year, probably in the middle of the season, if the Redskins aren't kind of doing as hot as they should be. But Case Keenum is a good quarterback. I don't think he's a bad quarterback at all. And I think that Dwayne, 5 years from now, we're going to see him starting, and I think he's going to have a pretty good quarterback career. I don't think he's going to be super great, but I think we're going to remember him as one of the better quarterbacks from this draft, and one of the better quarterbacks in the future. Probably kind of like a middle of the pack guy. And I think that'll be really great to see. It's either that or he'll have a career like Teddy Bridgewater without the injury. And I don't think Teddy would have been that great, but I think he would have been a middle of the pack guy. And then we go to the fourth quarterback taken in the draft. Is a tall white quarterback, just how the Broncos like him. He was taken 42nd overall in the second round by the Broncos. He's from Lee Summit, Mizzou, and he went to Mizzou. Drew Lock is a 6'4", 230-pound, 22-year-old quarterback who threw 275 of 437 attempts for a 62.9 completion rate, 3,498 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He ran 55 times for 135 yards and had 6 touchdowns. Last year, the year before, Drew Lock was actually a lot better. I think his touchdowns were in like the 40s. I'm not sure kind of what happened this past year, but I think that he has a lot of potential. Again, potential. And he's going to sit behind Joe Flacco, who is elite to the top tier. Joe Flacco is elite, and we all should know that and realize it. But he seems like the most wild card out of this bunch. He could honestly be the next Brock Osweiler, for all we know, you know. He honestly kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes with a little less arm strength and a little less speed. I don't think he's the fastest guy in the world. But he reminds me of Pat Mahomes, and the throws that he makes deep downfield in the mid-ranges. I think that he does really good with that kind of progression. He's kind of weak in the short-range kind of passing area. In my opinion, at least, it seems like he's nailing it too hard. And I think that kind of hinders him sometimes. He has a lot of raw talent. He's a raw, talented player, and we hear that a lot. And honestly, mechanically, he needs a lot of help, similar to Dwayne Haskins. Even though Drew started more years, he's just his footwork and the way he kind of throws sometimes is awkward, and it needs a lot of mechanical help. And I think he honestly can get that from Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco is one of the most mechanically sound quarterbacks in the draft, or not in the draft, in the NFL. And I think that's something he can definitely get from Joe Flacco, but currently he has bad mechanics, really bad mechanics. And I think 5 years from now, we're going to be seeing him as either a backup, just kind of a reliable backup, or honestly a starter for the Broncos. And I think that that'd be really cool. Maybe in 3 years, 2 years, Joe, retires or goes somewhere else, and the Broncos start Drew. And I think that would be interesting to see, because I think Drew Lock is one of the more interesting quarterbacks, and I think a year sitting under Joe is going to really help him. And I think that we'll see him as a pretty either a middle of the pack starter or a reliable backup, maybe similar to Drew Stanton, or honestly, I said Patrick Mahomes earlier, but I think Jameis Winston would probably be a better comparison, just because their style of play, and they're both kind of mechanically unsound, kind of bad. And next we're going to be talking about a quarterback who was taken with the 100th overall pick in the 3rd round, Will Grier, who was born in North Carolina and went to West Virginia University. He's a brother of Nash Grier, a very famous Vine star, and someone who's been in so many Netflix movies. You had to have seen him. Will went 266 completions for 387 yards, which is 67% completion rate, 3,864 yards, and 37 touchdowns for 8 picks last year. He's 6'2", 217 pounds, and 24 years old. Originally, I believe Will went to Florida before transferring to West Virginia, but I can't remember exactly. A positive about Will that I can say, honestly, is he has good to great accuracy. I think that he really nails some passes. And I think that it's very impressive sometimes. You'll see him make a throw that just seems right on the money. And it's just perfect with the accuracy, at least. And he has really good timing with his wide receivers. I feel like over the years, West Virginia, he kind of matched up with them, linked up with them a little better, and just kind of found his way with his wide receivers. Like a con about Will is that he does this thing where he wants to throw deep. There's nothing more that Will Grier wants than to be a gunslinger, down the field type of Drew Lock kind of guy. But his arm is a noodle. This man cannot throw very far. I would say 20 to 30 yards at most. He just, I saw an analogy where his arm writes checks that he can't make or something like that. There's just so many throws where you see and you're like, Will, what are you doing? Will is, I think he's cocky in his own head. I think he's a good leader. I think from all accounts, he's either kind of a dick or he's a good leader. But I don't know. I just don't see Will Grier being in the league 5 years from now. And if he is, he'd be like a lower tier backup, third or second string. Maybe he'll make it in the XFL, but he'll be out of the NFL. Most likely, in my opinion, 5 years after his rookie contract. So maybe I think that it was a good pickup from Carolina. I think that it was a great pickup because Cam's been having kind of injury issues lately. But I just don't see Will Grier being good enough to stay in the league that long. Alright guys, so that concludes this video talking about the quarterbacks of this draft. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be talking about most positions just to go over the ones that I will be going over. Next will most likely be running backs, and then wide receivers or tight ends. And then we'll probably get more into the defensive things like defensive end, defensive tackle, middle, outside linebacker. I don't know if I'm going to talk about corners because I don't think I know enough about corners to really talk about them, but I think it'd be really interesting to talk about them. So kind of leave in the comments what you'd like to see next, what kind of predictions you'd like to see next, and who is your favorite quarterback from this draft, and who do you think is going to have the best career, and who do you think is going to surprise people? My picks for either Daniel Jones or Drew Lock for surprising people with how good they are. And then my favorite quarterback would probably be Kyler Murray. Bias, a lot of bias, but I think that Kyler's going to be a great quarterback. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good life. Leave a like if you feel like it. If you don't, that's okay. Maybe go leave a like on someone else's video that is better than this one. But thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.